How do you like your coffee? How do you like your tea? How do you like your chocolate? Do you like them fair trade? What is fair trade anyway? Hi, I'm Libby from Scatter Network, and today we're discussing what fair trade is, the 4 areas of who and what are most commonly affected, and the 6 most commonly associated fair trade products. Okay, so fair trade is basically all about stable wages and fair working conditions. In Australia, we have laws that allow workers to receive fair wages and conditions depending on their work basis. However, in third world countries, there are not necessarily laws in place that protect workers' rights, providing improved livelihood and farming opportunities in communities in developing countries. How? So we'll talk about 3 areas of who, being women, children and men, and then the 4th area being the what, which is the environment. In particular, women and children that get affected outside of fair trade agreements. So the reason for this is because it is true that women in communities without fair trade spend a disproportionate amount of time doing unpaid work. This could be for 2 or 3 reasons. 2 of these reasons relate to their roles within families, and the 3rd reason is the treatment of them in the workforce. Okay, so first of all, women, for example, could be doing carer duties, which is unpaid. And this could just be starting from when they're a child. As a girl, they go out and fetch things like water. Studies have shown that women can spend up to 6 hours a day just retrieving water for the family. And this is for their mum, dad, brother, sister, and anyone else in the family. The 2nd area of carer duties is in relation to the disproportionate amount of work that women do with housework and child rearing. So women have been shown in these studies to be doing 10 times the amount of hours per day of child rearing and housework than other members in their family, which of course means that they're prevented then from participating effectively in the workforce. The 3rd area is unpaid work, being treated like as if they are volunteers. Fair trade comes about to try and enable women receive fair wages and they're able to own some land. Why is this? It's because this is where the statistic 77 cents to every dollar comes in. Women and men equally participate in agriculture in these countries. So agriculture is made up half of men and half of women. They are effectively producing the same amount of output, and yet women are only being paid 77 cents to every dollar that a man earns. This means that it has a run-on effect, and women may be forced or encouraged to go into other areas of work to make up the difference. Statistics have shown that women and children make up 70% of all individuals in the human trafficking black market. Okay, so if we're able to take women out of that scenario by releasing some pressure off them financially, then obviously that industry won't continue the way it currently is. What about the produce? So I mentioned before they equally participate. Well, let's think back. When it comes to food, now 4 of our 6 areas that are most commonly associated with fair trade, which will be discussed at the end, 4 of those are food related. Now this is where it gets interesting. 60 to 80% of food produced in these fair trade arrangements and globally, there is a reflection of women doing the majority of this work. So this is why it's important to have the fair trade, because women would otherwise be overlooked and they wouldn't be able to be earning an income that they deserve. And also these fair trade agreements seek to improve the percentages of women owning and managing the land. Without fair trade, women only make up 22% of registered farmers. So what run-on effect does this have for, say, children? Children benefit with fair trade essentially and directly because they're able to go to school. This means they are getting an education, okay, for the right now and also for the future. Children are also indirectly benefiting because they are being taken out of this human trafficking system and they are also not going to a repeated cycle of malnourishment, because usually when they go to school in these environments, a lot of these schools also run lunch programs, and so they benefit multiples of times over. The children area is quite convoluted, so these are just a couple of the examples of benefit. It really does come back down to that saying that it takes a village to raise a child. It's an incredibly convoluted area to discuss. They're just a few examples. What about the men? How do the men benefit from this fair trade arrangement? Do men in any way get disadvantaged from women, for example, in the workforce? No, that's not the case. With fair trade, the aim is to completely bolster the economy. So everyone receives the equal pay. It's not like women get paid and it gets taken away from men. No, they all just have their wages leveraged, and women just meet to the same level as men. Men are not disadvantaged by this. The reason for this is that their families, a man's family, is increased in the economy because their family owns and earns more, by the children and the women contributing a lot better and a lot more effectively. Children don't need to be cared for because they're at school. They don't need to be fed at home during school hours because they're at school. Women are contributing financially to the same degree as the man, so they're not involved in any other areas of work or having to do work that is uncompensated for. So how does this relate to the rest of us? Basically, buying fair trade means it's our way of connecting with these individuals, these working families and these communities, to establish fair conditions for them for the produce that we all depend on. How do we know something is fair trade? There is the fair trade mark. The fair trade mark is blue and green against a black background, and we can also have a look for the certified statement. It will say something along the lines of a code or a standard certified, or it will just say fair trade certified. We can get this in all areas, and I'll talk about the 6 most commonly associated produce in a moment. What about the standards then? How do we know it's a standard? How do we know it's certified? There are standards that they all conform to. Internationally, there is an agreed fair trade standard or practice. This means that social, economic and environmental conditions are met first. Standards include the protection of the worker by providing a fair trade minimum price. Okay. So they're given a fair wage for the work and hours that they pay. They are, men and women, paid the same amount for the same hours for the same output. The workers' rights are also protected, and that also of children, so they are taken out of this slave labour and child labour arrangement, if that is the case already, which can often be the case in these environments because it's not regulated without fair trade. It also aims to preserve the environment. So this is the 4th what or who or what part of that scenario, and that's the environment. There are standards put in place, and the fair trade premium helps because the fair trade premium is some money that is put back in to protect the land and also help people in that community learn how to manage that land so it's preserved for the future. It's a global benefit as well, because we don't want land degrading in some places and having a run-on effect for the rest of us either. Currently, there are 1,200 fair trade certified producer organisations, and that's across 74 countries. So what does that mean for me, say, in Australia? There are 3,000 products and options that are fair trade certified in Australia and New Zealand. So what are those 6 areas? We have, first of all, chocolate, seems to be right up the top there. The rest are in no particular order. Chocolate, coffee, tea, bananas, cotton and sports products. Okay, so by buying these products at fair trade, checking that they have those labels or that logo marking, then we are supporting the fair treatment of individuals in these communities and these families as well. What consequence does all of this have? Like I already mentioned, it improves those 3 who's, and the 4th area as well is the improvement of the environment. Hopefully we've managed to discuss a little bit and get some clarification of the ethical side, which is the three who's, women, children and men, the treatment of that being human rights, and the sustainability improvement as well being an improvement to the environment. So if you have any further questions about this topic or a topic that is sustainable related in general, then I'm interested to know, and I could do a video on that as well. And until then, all the best.